we couldn't think about what the audience was going to think about it. We felt really strongly that this was a story that needed to be told because there hadn't been really a grounded representation of this kind of relationship. We were so lucky that, ironically, romantic comedies start out the exact same way as these kind of textbook abusive relationships. So that kind of like led us into the story, but the depiction is really just like the best example we have in media of what an emotionally abusive relationship will look like.
I know some things about y'all, but I don't know if everybody does. So do you want to tell us just a little bit to start about how you met, how you started doing this, and what led to this film in particular?
Oh, sure. We met in college. It's not really a good story, so I won't bore you. I feel like we could just leave it at that. We started writing together shortly after. I was a really bad student. I was a writing major, needed help on my homework. We were roommates. Elisa was really good at helping me, and I was like, you should like always help me with my homework. And then we kind of became, writing partners since then. We wrote a web series after that, and that's kind of how we, started to get into the industry a little bit more. So, I think
that's 100% it.
Cool, love it. Where do I want to start? I think, well, I know you all had a web series, which you didn't want me to bring up for some reason, but but they have a wonderful web series called 86. It's still online. People can watch it. I'm curious, since this is your first feature, what did you learn from making the web series were there moments when you were making this film that you were like, see, remember on 86 when that, what were the things that carried through?
Well, I think Cazzie knew right away in college when we were doing homework together, but I think that was really nice to know is that we could work well together in a capacity like that. Like being on set together is very different from writing, which, it was nice to know that we were kind of always on the same page and wanted the same thing from shooting. I would say that this movie was also very, very cheap, so it's not like we had a big budget to work with, but there's so much that you learn just from having more of a budget, too, that was so different from the web series that it felt like whatever we took from there was just, like, more mistakes to be made and more things to learn. But I don't know, Cazzie, what do you think?
Yeah, it's a really hard question for me to answer because I feel like anytime you do a project, you make, like, so many mistakes for that specific project, and the only way to, like any takeaways I get from the project would only help me if I were to make the exact same movie again. So sure, there's some things and I got some really good advice, but I feel like if we did this movie over, oh my God, I would kill it. I would really know what to do. But for my next one, I feel like if, we're lucky enough to make another one, I'll be screwed all over again. And I won't know what mistakes will arise that are bound to happen.
Yeah, that's the fun, hopefully, I guess, maybe. I'm curious how you all thought about audience expectations with this film, because you're doing something I think really exciting and cool in terms of the tone and striking this balance between really heavy stuff and really funny stuff. And I don't know, I just thought, I felt like at the beginning I was really I went in pretty blind and I was like, what is gonna happen? I really was so curious to see, is it that he's just too good to be true? But when the shit started hitting the fan, so to speak, I also wasn't sure, are we supposed to be treating it like this is as heavy as it is in real life? But then I slowly saw this is really real, and I thought you handled it so well. So I'm just curious, wondering, everybody I feel like in entertainment is always saying they want to make something not cookie cutter, but then everybody's telling you to make something that's very cookie cutter. So I'm curious about that.
Yeah, I think we knew we couldn't think about what the audience was going to think about it. And there was there was a lot of points where we were no one's going to like this unless they've been abused before. And then us hoping people have been abused, which was very weird because you really don't want anyone to have experienced that. But then we were secretly hopefully, so people connect to it. But I think it was the kind of thing where it was more just we felt really strongly that this was a story that needed to be told because there hadn't been really a grounded representation of this kind of relationship. And I think if you haven't experienced it or you don't know someone who's experienced something like this, you might think that this is the movie version. But we really just took what it is, start to finish, the entire cycle of abuse. Like we go through it a few times, like all the different manipulation tactics, like it includes everything. So I think it's the kind of thing where it's like, we were so lucky that ironically romantic comedies start out the exact same way as these kind of textbook abusive relationships. So that kind of like led us into the story, but the depiction is really just like, this is what most, or like all of them are obviously different and unique, but like this is kind of like the best example we have in media of what an emotionally abusive relationship will look like. Yeah. I don't know if I answered your question.
No, you did. I love that. I mean, it's true that the rom-com of it all, you don't have to necessarily, like, if you stay true to that, we're following an abusive relationship, then the rom-com just kind of like comes out on its own a little bit, as long as you all are as funny as you are. So were there moments where you were like trying to, you were feeling like, oh, we need more jokes, but then you were afraid you were taking away from the hard parts? How did you navigate that?
I mean, I think we didn't, like, it's just not in us to make something super heavy-handed, and I feel like when things are super self-serious, it's actually harder to kind of take in what it's trying to say. I know for me, like, I'll like roll my eyes at anything that's like really trying to like bring a message home. And we like write comedy, like that's just what's natural for us. So to take this kind of subject matter and like the only thing it was going to turn into was some form of a comedy, because it's like what we know. The drama was really what was like super difficult for us. Like and I think we both are people who like kind of are averse to like earnestness. So like when it got too serious, we were just like, you know what, I like want a joke here. Like I don't like it. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it was also because the tone of the movie shifts, and we wanted to feel cohesive, and like it is the same film, it was like important that there were those moments of levity, right, like throughout those darker scenes too. And we actually like shot a lot more that we didn't put in there. We're like, let's just make sure we have as many funny moments as possible, and we can take it out in the edit, because not every like dark scene can handle a joke.
We pushed as far as we thought it could possibly go, and probably too far. Yeah.
Well, save it for the special features. Hopefully. Yeah. I love those. What about the casting process? I'm curious, because I mean, I really thought just the ability of your lead actor to like encompass this sense of like the anxiety that you see him going through, and also fulfill this like toxic, like blah person. I was just so impressed by that.
We like did something a little bit weird, which you like probably shouldn't do in a casting process, which was that like we really just ended up gravitating towards people who really understood this kind of material. We just felt like it's such a complex subject, and like there's so much nuance to it that both actors had like a real like willingness to learn about it, and like had their own experiences with it or knew people with it, and they just really understood the material, and we felt like that would be super helpful during the movie, just because there's so much like meticulous little things that happen that are going to affect the relationship, that affect like her responses to him, and vice versa. So that was super helpful. I don't know, do you have anything to say about casting?
No, I think that was it. And also, but like, so Sophia's ability to like be funny while also being such a great actress was like the thing that drew us to her like right away.
Yeah, I'll also say that both of them, like, it's not just Ray who had this had to play kind of two different characters, like this kind of Jekyll and Hyde. Like Sophia really had to do that too, where it's like she starts out as one person, and like her character in the beginning, and like who she becomes throughout this relationship, and how she becomes kind of this like Stepford wife, like high-pitched voice who like doesn't want to set him off. Like she becomes a really different person. So they're both kind of like having to play two different people throughout the movie.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, also the way she's gotta like, it changes how you interact with your friends in terms of, you're embarrassed, you're trying to minimize it, they don't know how to talk about it. I'm curious like how you thought about the relationships with her friends, and whether or not you like, I don't know if there was anything you had originally that you took out. I know I I feel like they have a really great presence. Like, they feel very important to the story. Obviously, I mean, you're playing one of them, but I don't know. I mean, it's always hard to strike a balance in a screenplay between like those characters and the leads. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think there were like so many different ways we could have told this story, and one version would have been like where there's a lot of the friends at play, and like it really becomes about that. But we were so focused on like depicting the relationship like in its entirety, like from start to finish. So the friends really for us just felt like they were the comic relief. They were like there to like kind of break up these exhausting scenes, and also to show like what happens. Like they really become more distant in the movie, like as she becomes more distant to them in her relationship. So that's kind of what their purpose was. I know it's like we tried to show how obviously you are too ashamed to talk to your friends about this because you don't want them to hate your boyfriend or girlfriend more than they already do or from what they've picked up on. So we kind of showed that they don't really know what's going on because she's clearly not talking to them, and that they just like they can't really say anything to her in a really straightforward way because they know it might end up pushing her away further, which is like happens within these relationships sometimes.
What she said. Yeah, I mean, I thought that the role that technology plays it feels very present in the way that it feels very present in all of our lives. But I feel like a lot of people when they're making movies, it's always this like thing of how much do you want to include phones? How much do you want to include social media? Because, living it and watching it in a movie can be different. So I'm curious how you thought about that.
Yeah, we don't necessarily like to shy away from social media or phones because it's so true to like our everyday lives to like constantly be on them. And they are like, especially for this film, it's like the phone kind of played like a third in their relationship, like because it was this like leash between the two of them, and it kept them tethered to one another even when she like thought she could get away. But I think something we do really well is like. And this might answer your earlier question too. We learned this in '86 that we do this really well. We try to make phone use as realistic as possible to what it actually feels like and looks like, and like talk about phones and the internet the way our friends actually do, and not the way that we see in like the very like millennial Gen Z network type way.
Yeah, I mean, I think we both like really despise how those movies try to like portray young people and how unrealistic it is to how we do use our phones, where they'll just be like they'll take a picture of something and they'll just be like hashtag Saturday night, and then they'll like post it, and it's like, no, that's just like actually not what happens. Like you might take a picture, then you'll edit it for a couple hours, you'll ask all your friends like what the caption should be, and then like maybe you post it. And like those conversations between like our friends, how obsessed we are with social media and like our identities like are so funny. And we don't see a lot of that, even though it like takes up all of our lives. I mean, if you have as obnoxious of friends as we do, then that's what they sound like. But yeah, that was kind of.
Shout out to the friends.
Yeah.
I know there's some around here. Yeah. I read that you all shot this in Detroit. Will you tell us a little bit about that? What that was like? How you ended up there? And
well, it was the middle of winter, and we were there, and it was not by choice, but we were happy to do it anywhere. So, yeah.
Yes, our financier is from Detroit and she wanted to shoot there, so that's how we ended up there. And it was, they don't really have like a large indie film scene, so it was like difficult because there's less of a culture of like, borrowing this camera from this person and like these lights at this rate or whatever it is. But it was like really fun and cool, and there was a lot of excitement on set for that reason, I feel, because our department heads were used to working on commercials and the one big budget film that comes through, so everyone was just like really happy to be there at all times, which is really, really, really difficult thing to get your crew to be when it's like 5 a.m. in a Detroit winter. But it was it's a very cool city. We'd never been there before.
So like there were no actors, so like that was difficult,
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, we had our background person, the way she got, and this is why the whole movie's empty. I don't know if you noticed that, but the way she got like background extras for one of the scenes was that she like went on Tinder and like tried to match with as many people as possible to like get them in the scene.
It's not? That seems
No.
really clever to
It
me.
did not work.
No, there's no one in the movie.
And she basically got like stood up like 50 times.
Yeah, no one showed up. Anyways,
Wow.
that was probably an overshare.
No, I love that. I mean, I can imagine being in that scenario and just being like, I don't know, just get anyone. That's great. Well, how has it been since it's come out? I mean, I think it's been about a year because it premiered at South by Southwest last year. So what has the last year been like?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're just like hoping people connect to it and that they feel seen by it, or if they have like a friend who's been in a relationship like this, they could show them. I mean, anything for me, it's just like if it's not like a public humiliation, it's like a huge win. So I'm feeling okay. That feels good. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think we're just like really hoping it can like find the people it needs to find. Yeah.
Have there been any surprises? I don't know, either in the way that it turned out in the end versus like when you were first writing it, or in the, rollout since it's been out.
Yeah, I mean, that it's not humiliating me. Like, I don't know. I don't have an answer.
Well, this isn't necessarily, it's surprising in the sense that like we can't believe this happened, but we really were hoping something like this would happen. But the other day, a friend told us that their friend broke up with their boyfriend after seeing this movie. And that was like, that we were hoping for that, but we didn't think in our wildest dreams it would happen.
That should be the marketing
Yeah.
campaign. See this movie and you'll feel empowered to break up with your awful boyfriend.
Exactly.
Wow. And is anybody out there contemplating a breakup? You can tell us later. Awesome. That's so cool. Wow. Yeah, that's exciting. I love that.
One person. Yeah. One person.
I think there might be more than one and you just don't
Let's
know.
hope so. Yeah, that would be great.
Were there, this is probably the last question, but I'm just curious because I love thinking that you all met in college and that you're making creative work together, and it's just like that's really wonderful to see. So I'm just curious if there was like a moment in the process of making this that you looked at your friend and were just like, wow, they're so awesome, that you just like thought about how great they were. I don't know. Is that too cheesy?
No, we just are not vulnerable with each other like that. I think there were a lot of moments like that where we were just like, who did we trick? Like we really the two of us together tricked a lot of people, and look where we are. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know.
I mean, it was also just like, it's just really fun being together behind the monitor, and it's like the moments where we're so aligned on what we want the movie to be because we'd been working on it for 5 years that we could just like look at each other and be like, oh my God, like we're thinking the same thing. That was, no, it's fine, pick it up. But it's
break up with that.
But it's, those, that might be important. But we were able to look at each other and be like, no, that's not what I want this to be, or yes, that's perfect. And I do like that song. That was good. But those moments were throughout, so it wasn't like one thing I can put my finger on.
It's just so much more fun to do it with your friend, because they can also do the things that you don't want to do. Like, I didn't want to talk to the actors, obviously. So Elisa, was much better at talking to the actors, and, she could kind of do that, So, yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah,
I'm sure, there's a little time and if you want to say hello in the lobby and before they run away, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, congratulations. Like, it's fine.
Like, at least this isn't our wedding. Thank you guys
It
for
really
coming.
is amazing.
I really appreciate it.
I mean, it's a wonderful film.
You're so funny.